2-0 up, Abby.
Yeah.
2-0 up.
Tut.
How can you be 2-0 up? It's not even that. Listen, we see it sometimes. 2-0 up teams come back. 2-0 up and concede 4.
Yeah, well, 2 of them are completely brainless, complete stupidity, and you can't blame Ange for that. I'm sorry, you can't blame Ange for Basuma being that stupid. You then can't blame Ange for Sarr then being that stupid, and that has been the case in many games this season when I've spoken about individual errors. There's been a lot of individual errors. You can't pin that on Ange. You just can't. So us being 2-0 up and then it potentially ending 2-2 or whatever, without those 2 stupid errors or whatever, 3-2 could have been 3-2 to Spurs at the end. Who knows? But because of those two things, you put the game so far beyond yourself. You can't really get back into it. I'm not saying it's an excuse in terms of the way we played. I thought we had moments where we were all right. I'd say the first 25 minutes we were okay. Obviously, the injury to Romero, again, changed it a little bit.
Do you think they played too soon? Because both of them
well,
got injured. And he said Thursday they looked good before. He literally said before the game, like, yeah, it's great, they're back early, and then look, they're out.
That's not on Ange either. That's on the medical team. That's the medical team. They've been training. They've been training all week. It's not down to Ange to say, "Oh, I'm going against the medical team. You're playing." Yeah. If the medical team have signed them off and they're back in training and they're fit enough to start, Mickey was meant to be back next week, and Romero, he said in his post-match stuff, he wasn't worried about Romero. Yeah. Romero's injury that he picked up is thigh. He had a foot injury before that, or a toe injury.
Yeah,
so
it's a new injury.
That's you can't pin that on Ange either. When you have a look at the squad and the depth of the squad, that's where it comes down to. Look at the bench. Look at the lack of options that they have. There is nothing there. Injuries or no injuries, there's not enough quality in that squad to be able to compete with a team that spent £1 billion.
What did you make of Cole Palmer's performance? Because it was live.
Hang on, I'm talking about Spurs for a second. And actually, I'm
because it was live, innit?
Can I finish talking about Spurs? It's nice that Cole Palmer decided to turn up against
Spurs
in a 4:30.
I want to hear what you want to say about it.
He does it against City, he does it against Arsenal, then we'll talk about it. But until that time, I've not seen him show up in a 4:30 all season.
Did it against them all last season?
Hasn't done it this season.
Panenka at your stadium.
Absolutely
Panenka and embarrassed you at your stadium.
Hasn't done it on this season. Anyway, I'm back to talking about my team. Back to talking about my team. You've had your moment. Back to talking about Spurs. I feel like you can say about Ange's tactics, you can say about the high line, etc., but you cannot put on him individual mistakes and individual errors, which we have seen week in, week out. You can't also put on him the lack of depth in that squad and the lack of quality. And when you all say to me, why don't you want to finish top 4? That is not a top 4 side. That's not a top 4 squad. They have moments. They have moments where they can be really good and certain games where they can be really good. But because we're so inconsistent, and you can say that, and the buck will always stop with the manager eventually. But ultimately, these players are not good enough. They're not. They're stupid. They're brainless. They do stupid things. And you see it time and time again. So if I think to myself, we've had 14 managers in 23 years since Enoch's been in charge. What's the one common denominator in all of that? The chairman.
The badge.
The board. That's the common denominator. If you don't give every manager the right tools, you're looking at a new manager on average every 18 months. Which is what we do. I always say to you, we'll be sitting here in 18 months' time talking about the next one, because it's the same cycle. If you don't give someone the right tools to prepare with, what's the difference?
Did Jamie Carragher do things saying like Levy can't be in charge? I think
but this is something I've been. How
that's
long?
The thing.
How long do I need to sit and say it for? Any Spurs fan with half a brain knows where it stems from. It stems from the top.
But you're still 2-0 up.
Yeah, but that's the mentality of the club, Rob. It comes from the top.
What's that got to do with Levy?
You see the Ange thing?
Everything is to do with him, because it all stems back. If you accept mediocrity and you accept that way and you cut corners with the players you sign, instead of going for option A and spending that little bit more money, you'd rather go for option C because you don't have to put any of your own money in. That doesn't necessarily come back to Daniel Levy himself. It comes back to Enoch as a board, and it comes back to Joe Lewis. They don't put any of their own money in. They never have. Everything that goes back into that squad. Hold on. Everything that goes back into that Tottenham side, everything that goes back in is generated through stuff, whether it's getting Champions League or revenue and things like that. That's what goes back into it. Stop cutting corners, and then you actually have a better product. You have a better football team for it. But because all they care about is a part of a portfolio, it's part of a bigger picture, they don't care the fact that the nucleus of it is Tottenham Hotspur. They don't care that that's the football club. It's because it's part of everything else. It's a concert hall. It's this, it's that, it's abseiling, it's F1. But as a fan, this is where every 18 months I sit here, I have the same conversation, I have the same nervous breakdown over it, because it's an endless cycle.
Yeah, but your inability to hold leads against Brighton, against Roma.
But that's because of the mentality of the club and the mentality of the type of players.
Ange has to take some responsibility.
Yeah, what portion of this do you put on Ange? Because it is, like you say, the team that the stuff that's wider, everything you say, I get that. Like, you know, I can see that. But then when they cross the white line, that's usually a reflection of what's going on in training.
Of course.
So if,
and
like Matisse said, they keep throwing away leads.
Sure.
You've lost the last. What is it? Is it?
But can I make
7 and 15 or something?
But hold on, can I make a point?
What
I'm saying is, this isn't something you just see with Ange. You saw it with Antonio Conte, a serial winner. You saw it with Jose Mourinho, a serial winner. You saw it eventually with Poch. You saw it before with every manager that came before that. So yes, there's always things that Ange could improve on. Yes, he's stubborn. Yes, we know that. But in terms of the high line and things like that, he's also missing. He obviously lost Romero early on. Mickey Van de Ven was never going to play a full game. Brennan Johnson went off. Vicario's out. The squad depth is not okay. Can't defend set pieces, which is down to coaching. Which
he doesn't even have a set piece coach, does he? He won't get one.
He does have a set piece coach now. But they all tie into each other. But in terms of the squad not being good enough, that is the fundamental and that is the bottom line. And this is not just an Ange thing. We've seen it with every manager that's ever managed Tottenham Hotspur.
Do you think he needs to change his philosophy a bit? His philosophy is
I would focus more on defending, but at the same time, I also, like I said, I don't think you can. It's not his fault that they have stupidity in them and they go and make stupid mistakes.
No, but I'm not take this game
because that's cost 2 goals. And then the game would have been 3-2 a Spurs win.
Well, we had other chances.
The game would have been so did Spurs. The game would have been a 3-2 Spurs win. If we don't give those 2 penalties away, I'm sitting here. I'm the one that's cooking him with my top off.
Not necessarily. You know, we could have scored more goals ourselves. We had chances. We missed opportunities.
But you didn't. And how did the game end? It ended 4-3.
If you got 4, maybe we get 5. We missed opportunities.
But I'm saying to you, we gave you 2 goals because of 2 stupid moments. Yeah, you did. So it's even
literally 2 slips.
And then it would have been 3-2 Spurs. What can't you understand about that?
If Cookware is wearing the right boots, we maybe keep a clean sheet.
Sure, and if Sarr and Basuma aren't so stupid,
so if buts and maybes. At the end of the day, you guys are in the bottom half. I think that's a massive underachievement.
You spent
Regardless
£1 billion,
of how much
so
we talk about Daniel
congratulations.
Levy, you guys shouldn't be in the bottom half, regardless of Daniel Levy being in charge.
What about you? You're in the you're in the bottom half.
This is why I'm fairly subdued today.
I couldn't believe the Spurs have 15 games played and lost 7.
I just don't see the point.
I didn't realise it was that bad.
Another manager. I just don't see the point of sacking another manager when I know what the cycle is. I just don't see.
But
the problem is not. It can't be Pochettino, Martin Jol, Harry Redknapp, George Graham, Juande Ramos. It can't be Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, Ange Postecoglou. It can't be all of those managers, can it? There's
Sherwood.
Exactly. Ryan Mason, Stellini, Nuno. It can't be all of these people. There's one common denominator amongst it all, and that is Enoch, Daniel Levy, the board. That's it.
How's Nuno managed to go to a club with less funds and be doing the job that he's doing, but then at Spurs he had more funds?
Spurs have spent a lot of money as well.
Yeah, because I don't know. I think Ange has got to take some blame for this, right?
There is some blame, and there is blame that lies with Ange.
He finished off last season really badly, didn't he?
It's not just on Ange.
Should have got top 4. He completely capitulated, and then he's coming to this season. And
I'll tell you what would happen. Let's say we sack him, which I think inevitably will happen. We'll go and get someone else, whether that is, I don't know, Marco Silva, let's say, for example. And I'll tell you what they'll do. They'll have a good 6 month like they do with every manager. We'll get into the second season and then it'll start tailing off and I'll be sitting here again in 18 months' time having this exact same
I do see your point about a bigger problem. And as someone I've experienced it the last 10 years, it's not... managers are obviously responsible for what their teams do on the pitch, largely. When you see a pattern that keeps occurring, you're going to lose your job. But when something continuously fails... do have to look at a bigger thing. You do. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but you can't just rid Ange of it all.
I'm not. I've called out Ange loads of times when I've said I think he's too stubborn and there is naivety. Sets his team up, they've got nothing in them that can switch a gear that goes right. There is. Like Cole Palmer said in his thing afterwards, very frantic out there. Just I know he's a different kettle of fish to even do that, but the assessment of the environment. Like, there's basically, the team is built in Ange's image. He wants his team to be front footed, don't care. When he was down to 9 last year, he said, don't care, I still play the same way. Hence why you could have, that version of Chelsea last year, let's talk about Ange's naivety. That version of Chelsea last year that couldn't break down low blocks. And, you know, all Spurs had to do was keep 9, just keep 8 back. Just sit, and you probably would have been all right. But because of the manager and what he wants them to do to never, ever not play this style, it's having the adverse effect. At
the end of the day, we've shown in games this season we can have control. Tottenham never had any control in that game. They didn't have any. It was
not in their style.
Absolute basketball match, which is why my basketball with me.
They don't have that. They don't have the players to do it.
It was 5v5.
Basuma's not that guy.
It was rush on EAFC. It was end to end. At the end of the day, these guys, they were 2-0 up And they allowed us to just come back into that game, making chance after chance after chance. At no point did they decide, let me be a little bit more pragmatic. At no time did they say, let me shut up the shop in between the lines and not give Palmer and Enzo all this space. But credit to us, because, you know, Jadon Sancho's goal is individual brilliance, by the way. That finish to just cut in on his right foot. We've been saying this season, can you get more shots off? Can you, start to give us more goal output? You've been getting assists. 20 to 25 million for this guy. A person, by the way, that would suit Almerim's system as an inside forward next to Diallo. Someone on his wavelength that can link up with the fluidity, with the understanding, the IQ. Brilliant finish. And he's been playing very well for us in the league this season. So credit to him. And then obviously, like I said, with Cole Palmer, I mean, I've been saying it. I don't have any doubts or any questions about this guy. People have been giving me little nudges saying, what about... Listen, this guy's understanding of the game is top tier. That goal that he creates for Enzo on that right-hand side to just go past players. I thought Neto could have done much more with Udogie in this game, and he went over there and just, ripped him and then set up that brilliant volley. So, and